I came to Portland with a round-trip ticket secure in my hot little hand because leaving the New York City area, I wasn't quite sure about coming to Portland. But when I arrived, my cousin's wife, the second day I was here, said, "I have a guy for you to meet." And I said, "I don't need to meet a guy." And she said, "No, I think you need to meet this guy." And so I met him the next day, and 10 months later we were married. So
that was 31 years ago.
One of the things that I am most grateful for is that our children came to us through adoption, and they were all tiny babies when we adopted them. And in fact, I was working as marketing director at First Interstate Bank when we got the call that Matt was born and was a day old, and we needed to come and pick him up.
When I first met Ann, I realized she was a very decisive individual, successful in her own right, a great mother, a great friend to those people lucky enough to be her friend. She was and continues to be inclusive, a marketing genius, and incredibly humble.
3 words to describe Mark and Ann. Well, first, I think with Mark, I'll have to say, a sense of calm, but incredible inner intensity, and someone who is a perfectionist and thinks deeply about doing the right thing and working hard at it. With Ann, I think highly intelligent, creative, and passionate. Also, I would add one other word for Ann, and she's really funny.
When I first met Mark, I thought he was a very intense individual, very committed to what he was doing. After I got to know him a little bit, he's definitely on point, very focused, laser sharp, and has a tremendous work ethic. Well, right after graduate school, I went to work for Xerox and in sales, and then did some sales management, which was a great learning exercise for me. But right away, it gave me the opportunity to learn a lot about myself, and that was that I learned that I was very entrepreneurial and probably overly independent.
I met Mark in the late 1990s when we worked with he and Bob Girding, his partner, in purchasing the 4th Avenue building for PSU. They see life clearly. They're very passionate. They're driven to make the world a better place, and they're very confident.
Mark and Ann, I owe them so much, and everything about my professional career, certainly, I owe entirely to them. And when I say them, it's really both of them, because when I first started working with Mark, he gave me a summer job, and I actually worked for that summer primarily out of his house.
I feel like both of them really wanted to improve the community, the environment in which they were raising their families, and do that the best they could.
I enrolled at Portland State, and I took 15 undergraduate and graduate level courses in business and marketing. And ultimately I applied for my MBA at Portland State and was accepted. And then promptly our first son was born, and even though I was given 7 years to complete the degree, then our second son was born, then our daughter was born, and so that's still on my to-do list today.
I knew I wanted to do something more on my own, and I think it was probably the first year I was at Xerox, if not the second year, that I went to Portland State and took my real estate license classes from Joe Weston, of course, who is a gentleman here in Portland who's been very, very successful in the real estate industry and many others, and very influential in our community.
Our son, Tommy, who just graduated from University of Rochester with a degree in brain and cognitive science, decided that perhaps something a little more hands-on would be what he wanted to do, and he wanted to come back to Portland so that he could go to Portland State and get a degree in environmental engineering.
There are 2 things that have been really important to Ann and Mark both, and that is education. So they have put together a scholarship fund for college education, and then also their support of the arts.
The thing that I enjoy the most is we've had the opportunity to sponsor some scholarships over the years at PSU and elsewhere. And the notion of trying to target those, one of the things I think that is a very big issue that we have in our state and probably every state, and that is the notion of access. And how can we make education accessible for those who can't write the check? We have had the great fortune and been blessed to work with some of the most creative minds, I think, in our industry, whether it be firms on the design side, such as GBD, KPFF Engineering, GluMac, ZGF architects, or on the construction side with people like Wayne Drinkward at Hoffman, or Harris Wright, or Skanska, or R&H. Each of those companies along the way, they brought their absolute best talent to the table. They brought ideas to the table, and they took a vision that we came up with together, and a shared vision, and really helped us make it happen. There's a lot of people in the community beyond the business community that I think have really helped us understand the value that the arts and education and sustainability, things that we value dearly, have on our community. And people like Julie and Peter Stott, Harold and Arlene Schnitzer, my business partner Bob Girding and his wife Diana, and helped us understand the value that we as citizens can add to our city beyond what our careers are.
I think that there is an underlying principle that I know I heard Ann say repeatedly, and she believed that it was important to teach her children, and that was when you're given a lot, you have tremendous responsibility to give back.
Their thoughts about education, their thoughts about development, their thoughts about creating a livable city and a sustainable city all have created a utopian environment, I think, for us, which will benefit future generations.
Somewhere more recently, and I think perhaps based upon Ann's influence, he kind of got serious about health and actually laid down the law and quit all of his Diet Coke and Diet Pepsi and switched to juice and water. And he went so far as to actually make it a policy of the company. So one day we're all drinking our Diet Cokes, and the next day there's not a single pop in the fridge and there's just a bunch of juice. Well, that lasted about 2 weeks, I think, when we caught Mark sneaking in the back door with a brown paper bag, which of course wasn't filled with malt liquor, but Diet Pepsis.
Individually, Ann and Mark are excellent leaders, excellent role models, and I think to be a great leader you have to be a role model and feel comfortable in your shoes in that regard. There's a twinkle that they bring individually, but together there is a synergy that they can't be stopped.